The Grand Hall of Varnus Prime was filled with representatives from dozens of alien civilizations. The air was thick with tension. The Galactic Coalition had gathered for one final attempt at peace with humanity. The humans were late. The towering Selkar, an empire that had dominated the stars for centuries, sat at the center of the council. Their leader, Emperor Xelvor, had a smug expression on his reptilian face. He believed that humans would beg for peace. After all, they were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. The door to the chamber opened, and the human delegation entered. Ambassador Marcus Steele led them, his expression unreadable. He walked with slow, deliberate steps, his hands folded behind his back. Behind him, his aides carried a simple black folder, a document that contained humanity's final decision. The room fell silent. Humans. Emperor Xelvor spoke first, his deep voice echoing through the hall. You have wasted much of our time. Let us end this foolishness. Surrender your territories, dismantle your war fleets, and you will be allowed to live under our rule. Ambassador Steele did not respond immediately. He simply tilted his head, studying the emperor like a scientist observing a failed experiment. We came here today. Steele finally spoke, his voice calm but firm, to listen, to give diplomacy one final chance. But it seems the galaxy has already made up its mind. You don't want peace. You want submission. Xelvor let out a sharp, hissing laugh. We are offering you mercy, human. You should take it. Steele opened the black folder, pulling out a single sheet of paper. It was simple, clean, with only a few words written on it. He placed it on the center table for all to see. It read, "Humanity refuses." Gasps filled the room. Several alien delegates stood up in shock. Others whispered among themselves, eyes wide with disbelief. You can't be serious. A Selkar noble sneered. You think you can stand against us? Your fleets are weak. Your armies are scattered. Without our protection, you will fall. Steele smirked, the first real emotion he had shown. Protection. He repeated, his voice laced with amusement. Is that what you call it? When you destroyed our colonies, when you kidnapped our people, when you assassinated our leaders. The room grew tense. The accusations were true, and everyone knew it. For years, the Selkar and their allies had pushed humanity into a corner, pretending to offer peace while secretly planning humanity's destruction. Steele's eyes swept across the room. We trusted you. We followed your laws. We honored every treaty. And in return, you called us weak, unworthy, insignificant. He shook his head. No more. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small holographic projector. He pressed a button, and a massive fleet appeared in the air above the table. Hundreds of sleek, deadly human warships, their designs unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The aliens in the room froze in shock. Impossible, one of them whispered. Humanity didn't have this kind of power, did they? You thought we were weak, Steele said, but you forgot one thing. Humans adapt. We learn. And when pushed to the edge, we do not surrender. We fight. The hologram changed. It now showed a Selkar battleship, burning in space, its massive hull torn apart. The coalition had attacked a human colony just 1 week ago, expecting no resistance. They were wrong. The fleet that had attacked had vanished without a trace. You destroyed them. A Selkar officer stammered, his voice filled with disbelief. Steele leaned forward slightly, locking eyes with the Emperor. We warned you. You refused to listen. The council chamber was in chaos now. Some alien leaders stood, demanding an explanation. Others, the more intelligent ones, were already considering their next move. Emperor Xelvor's confident smirk had disappeared. He stared at Steele, finally realizing the truth. Humanity was no longer a small, powerless species. They had prepared for this moment. Steele closed the black folder and stepped back. The peace talks are over, he declared. The next time we meet, it will not be in a council chamber, It will be on the battlefield." Without another word, the human delegation turned and walked out, leaving the galactic leaders in stunned silence. Outside, Steele's communication device buzzed. A voice spoke. "Orders, sir." He exhaled slowly, looking up at the dark sky of Varnus Prime. "Tell the fleet to prepare," he said. "War is coming." The halls of Varnus Prime were silent long after the human delegation left. The Galactic Coalition representatives sat in stunned disbelief. No one had expected this outcome. Humanity had walked away, refusing peace. Emperor Excelvor clenched his claws into the table, his tail twitching in frustration. "Fools," he growled. "They think they can defy us." A Selkar noble hesitated before speaking. "Your Majesty, what if they are stronger than we thought?" Zelvor turned his piercing yellow eyes towards him. "Impossible. They are a young species. Their fleet is nothing compared to ours. We will crush them before they can act." The other alien leaders shifted uncomfortably. They had always seen humans as persistent, clever, and unpredictable, but this was different. The humans had not begged for peace. They had warned them. A Korthan warlord, a massive, muscular creature with dark red scales, let out a laugh. "They are brave, I'll give them that. But bravery will not save them when our fleets burn their worlds to dust." The Emperor's mood darkened. "Then we will not wait. We strike now. Destroy their outer colonies and make them beg to return to the Council." A signal was sent. The first attack had begun. On the human colony of Titan's Reach. Far from the political games of the galactic elite, Titan's Reach, a thriving human colony, was about to face the full force of the Galactic Coalition. Governor Elias Carter stood in the command center, staring at the incoming fleet on the holographic display. Hundreds of enemy ships were approaching fast. Zelkar warships, Korthan dreadnoughts, Velari cruisers. His officers looked uneasy. "Sir, the enemy forces are massive. Should we send a distress call to Earth?" Elias took a deep breath. "No need." His officers exchanged worried glances. "But sir..." Before they could finish, the human defense fleet activated. From behind Titan's largest moon, sleek, black warships emerged, ships unlike anything seen before. These were not the old, outdated human vessels the galaxy mocked. These were next-generation war machines. The enemy fleet, expecting little resistance, suddenly faced a nightmare. Human ships moved faster than expected, their armor resisting plasma and laser fire. Electronic warfare systems disabled enemy targeting, turning their own weapons against them. And then, the real attack began. The first Selkar cruiser exploded as human torpedoes bypassed its shields. A Korthan dreadnought, once feared across the galaxy, was ripped apart by railguns. A Velari battleship, desperate to retreat, was caught in a gravity well, a human-created trap that warped space itself. The Coalition never saw it coming. Their fleet, which was supposed to crush humanity, was instead being systematically wiped out. Governor Elias Carter watched it all from the command center. "They thought we were weak," he muttered. "They were wrong." Panic spreads across the galaxy. The news spread faster than light. The first major battle of the war had ended in complete disaster for the Galactic Coalition. The Coalition leaders, who had been so confident, now faced a terrifying realization. Humanity had not just been preparing for war. They had been perfecting it. They had technology the galaxy had never seen. They were not just surviving, they were winning. A meeting was called immediately on Selkar Prime, deep within the Emperor's war chambers. Zelvor was furious. "How?" he roared, his tail slamming against the ground. "How did they destroy an entire fleet?" A Selkar admiral hesitated before answering. "Their ships are different. They move faster. Their weapons are more powerful. Their strategy is unpredictable." The Korthan warlord, who had laughed at humanity earlier, now looked unsettled. "It's like they knew exactly what we would do. Like they planned this war long before we did." Silence fell over the room. For the first time, they understood. Humanity had never intended to beg for peace. They had come to see if the galaxy had changed. And when it hadn't, they had walked away, because they were already prepared for what came next. The Emperor gritted his teeth. Then we hit them harder. We send more fleets, more soldiers. We will drown them in war. But deep down, a shadow of doubt crept into his mind. Because if humanity was as powerful as they seemed, then perhaps war was exactly what they wanted. And that thought terrified him. The Texelkar homeworld, a massive city-covered planet, was silent as the War Council gathered. The air in the Imperial War Chamber was thick with tension. Emperor Xelvor sat at the head of a long black stone table, his golden eyes burning with rage. The Korthan warlord, General Raxer, slammed his fist against the table, cracking the surface. "That was just one fleet," he growled. "We have thousands more. We will send everything we have and wipe out their colonies." A Velari diplomat, a thin creature with smooth silver skin, shook his head. "You don't understand, Raxer. They were ready for us. They knew exactly how we would attack. This was no accident." The room fell into uneasy silence. Then, a Selkar intelligence officer entered, his scales pale with fear. He bowed before the Emperor and hesitated. "My lord, our spies. They have confirmed something troubling." Xelvor's claws tapped against the table. "Speak." The officer swallowed hard. "Humanity has been preparing for war for years. Their ships are not just new, they are superior. Their fleets are larger than we thought. And their technology is beyond anything we imagined." A cold chill spread through the chamber. General Raxer growled, "Enough talk. We are warriors. We will strike now. We will crush their spirits." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. He was angry, yes, but he was not foolish. He knew that underestimating an enemy twice was a mistake. Still, he had no choice. The coalition had to respond. A massive fleet was sent to invade another human colony, New Avalon. This time, there would be no mercy. New Avalon, a trap of humanity's own making. New Avalon was a beautiful world, covered in green fields and blue oceans. It was one of humanity's largest colonies, home to millions of people. The coalition fleet, a force of over 500 warships, entered orbit. They expected a frightened population, a desperate call for peace. Instead, they found nothing but silence. The fleet commander, a Selkar admiral named Decorus, frowned as he scanned the surface. Something is wrong. There are no distress calls, no military response. It's too quiet. Suddenly, one of his officers gasped, "Sir, human ships coming out of warp space." Before anyone could react, hundreds of human warships emerged from the void. They had been waiting. The battle began instantly. Human railguns fired with pinpoint accuracy, piercing enemy shields. Stealth fighters slipped between enemy lines, taking out command ships. Drones swarmed through the battlefield, disabling enemy engines before they could even fire back. The coalition ships, caught completely off guard, tried to retreat, but it was too late. A massive explosion tore through the enemy flagship as a human warship rammed it at full speed, detonating its power core. The Selkar admiral, Decorus, watched in horror as his forces were wiped out within minutes. He had never seen anything like it. Humanity didn't just fight. They dominated the battlefield. Realizing he had lost, Decorus sent a desperate transmission back to the Emperor. "It's not just their weapons, it's their minds. They think differently. They fight differently. We cannot win this war." Then, his ship was consumed by fire. The message to the galaxy. News of the battle spread like wildfire. Alien worlds, once confident in the coalition's strength, began to panic. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. The Velari ambassador, normally calm and composed, was visibly shaken. "We cannot win this war. Humanity is too strong. We must negotiate. But Selvor refused. He stood, his voice echoing through the chamber. No, we do not surrender to humans. We will strike again, harder, with everything we have. The council was divided. Some wanted peace, others wanted revenge. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Marcus Steele sat in a dark war room, reading the latest reports. A military officer stood beside him. "Sir, the enemy is preparing for another attack." Steele nodded, his face unreadable. "Let them come. We will teach them another lesson." The galaxy had underestimated humanity. Now, they would learn the truth. The Galactic Coalition was in chaos. The defeat at New Avalon had shaken the entire galactic order. Humanity was supposed to be weak. They were not. For the first time in centuries, the great alien empires were afraid. The Excelcar Dominion, the Corthan warlords, and the Velari High Council gathered once again on Varnus Prime. Their leaders sat around a circular war table, their expressions tense. Emperor Selvor, his golden eyes burning with frustration, spoke first. "Enough of these failures. We underestimated humanity, and we paid the price. No more." The Corthan general, Raxer, slammed his fist on the table. "Then we must stop playing games. We will burn their worlds, crush their armies. If we hit them hard enough, they will break." The Velari ambassador, a thin, silver-skinned alien named Helnera, shook her head. "You don't understand. The humans fight differently. They don't just use weapons. They use strategy, deception, and technology beyond our expectations. We cannot win through brute force." Selvor narrowed his eyes. "Then what do you suggest?" "Surrender." Helnera hesitated. "I suggest we think. Learn from our mistakes. Humans fight like no species we have ever faced before. If we attack blindly again, we will lose." The room fell silent. They all knew she was right. But there was no turning back now. Humanity had made their choice, and the coalition would answer. A new plan was formed. They would not attack a single colony this time. They would strike at multiple targets at once, overwhelm humanity before they could react. A full-scale invasion was coming. Earth's hidden strength. Far from the war councils of the aliens, deep within Earth's military command center, Ambassador Marcus Steele stood before a massive holographic map of the galaxy. Beside him, Admiral Catherine Rice, the supreme commander of humanity's forces, analyzed the data. "They're coming. Multiple fleets, attacking different colonies at once." Steele nodded. "They think they can stretch us thin, make us panic, force us to surrender." Rice smirked. "Then they have no idea who they're dealing with." The map changed, showing Earth's hidden military assets. Stealth fleets positioned in deep space, orbital defense platforms hidden in asteroid belts, advanced eye-controlled warships capable of fighting without pilots. For years, humanity had secretly prepared for this moment. They knew the aliens would turn on them eventually. And now, it was time to show them the cost of their mistake. Steele turned to Reyes. "Send the order. Let's give them a welcome they will never forget." The Galactic Coalition's invasion begins. The Coalition fleets launched their attack on 3 major human-controlled worlds. Dracon 4, a mining colony vital for human warship production. Elysium Prime, a heavily populated civilian world. Atlas Station, a deep space military outpost. The Excelcar targeted Dracon 4, expecting an easy victory. They found nothing but silence. As soon as their ships entered orbit, massive planetary railguns activated, firing directly into the enemy fleet. The Corthan warriors, attacking Elysium Prime, believed that civilians would be defenseless. They were wrong. As soon as they landed, human resistance fighters emerged, trained soldiers, ex-military, even ordinary civilians fighting with guerrilla tactics. The Corthans soon realized the horrifying truth. Every human was a fighter. At Atlas Station, The Velari fleet arrived to destroy what they thought was an old military outpost. Instead, they were greeted by a fleet of AI-controlled warships, moving in perfect coordination. The battle was over before it even began. The coalition had walked into a trap, the turning point of the war. Within hours, the coalition fleets were in full retreat. The Excelcar forces, overwhelmed by planetary defenses, lost half their fleet before they could escape. The Corthans, expecting an easy ground war, found themselves hunted by human resistance fighters, their warriors cut off and eliminated one by one. The Velari, thinking they could destroy Atlas Station, instead lost their entire fleet to humanity's AI warships. The losses were staggering. The Galactic Coalition had never suffered such a massive defeat before. Back on Varnus Prime, Emperor Excelvor received the reports. He could barely believe what he was reading. General Raxor, once so confident in their victory, now looked pale. This is impossible. The Velari ambassador, Telnera, closed her eyes, her voice barely above a whisper. No, this is humanity. For centuries, the Galactic Coalition had believed they were the most powerful force in the universe. They had ruled through fear. They had crushed countless civilizations. But now, for the first time in history, they were the ones who were afraid. Because humanity was not just fighting for survival. They were fighting to win. And they were just getting started. The shockwaves of humanity's unexpected victories spread throughout the galaxy. Varnus Prime, the seat of power for the Galactic Coalition, was in turmoil. Alien leaders paced back and forth, murmuring among themselves. No one could explain how humanity had turned the tide of war so quickly. Emperor Excelvor sat at the head of a long table, his eyes narrowed. His usual calm demeanor was shattered. The Excelcar fleet had been routed at Dracon 4. The Corthans had been outgunned and overwhelmed at Elysium Prime. The Velari were defeated at Atlas Station. How had it all gone so wrong? A Corthan general, visibly shaken, spoke up. The humans, they outmaneuvered us at every turn. Their military strategy is not like ours. We never saw their hidden fleets. We didn't even know they had defenses on Elysium Prime. The Velari ambassador, Telnera, nodded in agreement. Humans are not fighting the same way we are. They don't rely on overwhelming force. They think ahead. They know how to use technology, tactics, and timing. They were prepared. A Excelcar warlord, his scales flicking in agitation, slammed his fist on the table. We should have destroyed them when we had the chance. Their resistance is a threat to us all. Excelvor raised a clawed hand, silencing the room. We cannot simply attack again. Not without planning. If we go on the offensive now, we will lose more fleets. The Emperor's mind raced. Humanity had proven itself dangerous, more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The real question was, how could they defeat an enemy that knew how to outthink them? Humanity's response: the war continues. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Marcus Steele stood before a large holographic map in a hidden military facility. The map showed the Galactic Coalition's movements, but it wasn't just about defense anymore. Humanity had shifted the balance of power. The message had been received loud and clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Steele looked at Admiral Catherine Reyes, who stood beside him. She had been instrumental in leading humanity's military strategies. They will come again. It's just a matter of time. Reyes nodded, her expression determined. We're ready for them. We've been preparing for this war for years. A military officer stepped forward with a report. The alien fleets are regrouping. They're planning a massive counterattack, but they're not going to do it alone. The word has spread. They're calling in reinforcements from the other galaxies. Steele's expression remained calm, but his mind worked quickly. Humanity was no longer in the position of weakness. The Coalition's reinforcements would arrive, but so would human ingenuity. Earth had already started deploying new weapons, war machines designed to counter alien tactics. Let them come, Steele said, his voice steady. We've only just begun. The Coalition's response. A new strategy. Back on Varnus Prime, the Coalition leaders convened again. They had lost much. Fleets, soldiers, resources. The Excelcar, Corthan, and Velari now realized they could no longer rely on brute force alone. The human resistance had shown them that tactics, intelligence, and preparation were just as important as firepower. Zelvor stood at the head of the table, his voice cold. Humanity has proven that they are not like the other lesser species we have crushed. We cannot just attack. We need a new strategy, one that catches them off guard. The Corthan general, Raxer, suggested an idea. Perhaps we should split our forces. Send smaller fleets to strike their colonies, make them think we're divided. They'll waste their resources trying to stop us. But Telnera disagreed. We cannot afford to make them stronger. We need to learn more about their new weapons, their new tactics. We need to understand why they are so different. Zelvor agreed. I have a better plan. We will send a team of spies to Earth. Get inside their minds. Learn how they fight, how they think. Human intelligence, the power of knowledge. On Earth, Marcus Steele knew the Coalition wouldn't back down. Their defeat had shaken their pride. And pride was something that galactic empires could never easily let go of. Humans weren't just relying on their advanced technology. They also knew how important intelligence was. Earth's military network had established the largest and most secure intelligence system in the galaxy. The war was no longer just about weaponry. It was about outsmarting the Coalition. Steele turned to Admiral Reyes. The Coalition will try to spy on us. They will think they can learn something from us. But what they don't know is that we've already infiltrated their networks. Reyes smiled. So we control the game then? Steele nodded. Exactly. We'll make them think they're winning. But we'll always be one step ahead. The Coalition's mistake, underestimating human intelligence. As the Coalition prepared to send their spies to Earth, they had no idea what they were walking into. Human intelligence networks were far more advanced than they realized. The moment their ships entered human-controlled space, they were already being watched. Earth had outwitted them at every turn. The Coalition, once confident in their superiority, now found themselves struggling to catch up. It was clear, humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were outsmarting the galaxy. The war had turned. What was once thought impossible had now become humanity's reality. They had defied the odds. They had outwitted and outlasted the galactic empires that once ruled the stars. As the Coalition began to regroup, their pride slowly eroded, replaced by an undeniable sense of fear. The Excelcar, Corthan, and Velari had underestimated humanity's strength, and now they had no choice but to reconsider their next move. Their last few defeats had been humiliating, and the reality was sinking in. Humanity wasn't just a minor species, it was a force to be reckoned with. The War Council on Varnus Prime was called once more. The room was filled with tense leaders, their faces grim, their thoughts clouded by the shock of the past few battles. Emperor Excelvor stood at the head of the table, his sharp claws tracing the edges of the holographic map. They have broken our fleets, destroyed our strongest soldiers. We cannot continue to fight like this. General Raxer, the once confident Corthan warrior, stood up abruptly, his large form tense with frustration. What do you suggest, Excelvor? They have humiliated us at every turn. They think they can win this war. Zelvor's golden eyes narrowed. They already have won, he said, his voice cold. The Coalition is falling apart. The rest of the galaxy is beginning to realize that humanity is stronger than we thought. Telnara, the Velari diplomat, leaned forward. It's not just their military. It's their spirit, their will to survive. They are not like the others. We need to adapt if we want to maintain control. The council fell silent. They were afraid. A new strategy, humanity's turning point. On Earth, the human resistance had become more than just a group of fighters. It was now a new order, a symbol of human strength and ingenuity. With each passing day, the Coalition's foothold in the galaxy shrank further. Humanity had transformed itself from an underdog to a dominant power. Ambassador Marcus Steele stood in the war room, gazing at the holographic projection in front of him. "We've done it. We've pushed them back. But we cannot stop now. We have to make sure the galaxy understands. We are no longer just a small part of it. We are the future." Admiral Catherine Rice nodded, her face serious. "We've taken back most of the colonies, and our fleets are stronger than ever. But the rest of the galaxy isn't just going to stand by. They will come for us, one way or another." Steele took a deep breath. "Let them come. Humanity has no place for fear anymore. This is the moment we take control. We don't just stop them. We change the entire structure of the galaxy." "And how do we do that?" Rice asked, raising an eyebrow. Steele's gaze turned toward the fleet deployment map. "We offer them a choice. The Coalition has failed. They've shown their true colors. Now we build a new order, one where we lead, not follow. Humanity's rise, an unstoppable force." The next few months saw a shift in the balance of power across the galaxy. Earth and its allies had developed new alliances with planets and species that had once been under the thumb of the galactic empires. Humanity was no longer fighting alone. The Excelcar, Corthan, and Velari found themselves isolated, their resources dwindling, their strength fading. Meanwhile, humanity's influence grew. Former enemies began to see the benefit of joining a new galactic order, one that didn't rely on fear and oppression, but on cooperation and shared strength. Steele's message was clear: join us or stand against us. Across the galaxy, ambassadors from newly aligned planets came to Earth to sign treaties, pledging allegiance to humanity's vision of the future. The idea of a new galactic order, led by humanity, spread like wildfire. The old alliances, the ones that had kept the galaxy divided and ruled by the most powerful, were falling apart. Even some former allies of the Coalition began to question their loyalty. The Corthans, who once thought themselves invincible, began to fear that they were next on humanity's growing list of conquests. The Velari, known for their wise diplomacy, found their influence diminished as human-led negotiations began to dominate the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just winning the war, it was reshaping the future. The Coalition's collapse. By now, the Coalition's leadership had splintered. Zelvor, once proud and confident, had become a shadow of his former self. His empire, the Excelcar Dominion, was fracturing. General Raxer had no more soldiers to command, and his forces were scattered across the galaxy, defeated and demoralized. The Velari, once so sure of their place, now struggled to maintain any power or influence. Telnara, the Velari diplomat, now stood alone before Steele. "What do you want from us?" she asked, her voice quiet, yet filled with defiance. Steele looked at her, his expression unreadable. "We want you to see that this war was never about defeating you. It was about building a future, one where humanity leads and the galaxy works together." Telnara nodded slowly, understanding the weight of his words. "The old order is gone. It's time for something new." Humanity had proven that they could not just survive, they could lead. And with that leadership, the galaxy began to change. Piece by piece, the Coalition's rule was over. A new dawn had begun. Once, the Excelcar Dominion had ruled with absolute power. Once, the Corthan warlords had crushed anyone who dared oppose them. Once, the Velari High Council had brokered peace across the stars, expecting the galaxy to bend to their will. But now, that era was over. Humanity had not just survived the chaos, they had conquered it. The new galactic order, led by humanity, was taking shape faster than any of the alien species had ever expected. The once proud empires of the Coalition were now mere shadows, struggling to hold on to whatever power they had left. Earth's influence had spread throughout the galaxy. The first human-controlled star system now boasted thriving trade routes, strong military alliances, and advanced technologies that the rest of the galaxy had never seen before. The human fleet patrolled the stars, not to dominate, but to protect the peace they had built. Ambassador Marcus Steele, the leader of this transformation, stood before a new assembly of galactic representatives. Species that had once viewed humans with suspicion and contempt now sat side by side with them. They had seen humanity's strength and wisdom, and they had chosen to stand with them. The room fell silent as Steele spoke. What we've accomplished here is not just a victory for humanity. It is a victory for every species that wants to thrive without fear, without oppression. The old way of doing things is gone. This is the future. His voice was calm, but there was a confidence in it, a confidence that had not been present in the galaxy before humanity took charge. For many, this moment was historic. It was a sign of how far humanity had come from the days of battling for survival against alien invaders, and it was a symbol of how the galaxy was changing, for the better. The Coalition's final defeat. Not all species in the galaxy were ready to accept the new order. The remnants of the Selkar, Korthan, and Velari forces were scattered, but their pride refused to die easily. Some made desperate attempts to regain their lost influence by rallying what remained of their fleets and preparing for one final stand. Xelvor, the fallen emperor, had become a symbol of defiance, refusing to acknowledge humanity's rise. He believed that humanity's actions were nothing more than a temporary uprising, one that could be crushed with time. But Xelvor had no idea what he was up against. When his remaining fleet approached Varnus Prime, preparing for a last-ditch effort to retake their former capital, they were met with human diplomacy, not violence. Steele had already sent emissaries to the leaders of the Selkar remnants, urging them to surrender, to join the new galactic order, and to stop fighting. There were no harsh demands, no threats, just a simple offer: join humanity's vision for the future, or continue to fight and lose. Xelvor refused. "I will not kneel to them," he spat. "I will not surrender to a species that has no place in this galaxy." But Steele's patience was unwavering. "We don't ask for your surrender, Xelvor. We offer you a chance to join the future, to shape it with us. The galaxy is changing, and you can either be part of it or be left behind." For a brief moment, it seemed that the Emperor would relent. But in the end, Xelvor chose pride over peace, humanity's offer. It wasn't long before Xelvor's forces were defeated, scattered across the stars. The Korthans and Velari, who had once been his allies, were forced to choose sides. Some sided with humanity, understanding that resistance to change only led to irrelevance. Others, still clinging to the old ways, tried to rebuild their empires in secret, but their strength had already been broken. The human-led Galactic Council had now taken its place. Species that had once been oppressed were now free to make their own choices, free to pursue their own futures without fear of the old tyrants. Humanity did not seek to dominate. They sought to unite. As the galaxy watched, the new order became a beacon of hope, a reminder that strength didn't always come from force. Sometimes, true power came from the ability to change and adapt, to evolve when the universe demanded it. A new beginning. The galaxy was no longer divided into empires that clashed with one another. It had become something new, a place where peace wasn't imposed by a few powerful rulers, but shared and protected by everyone. Humanity's presence had turned out to be a blessing, not just for Earth, but for every species that had been subjected to the old ways of war and fear. As the first human representative spoke at the new Galactic Assembly, his words were simple but powerful. "This is just the beginning. We will continue to build, to grow, and to protect this galaxy. We don't seek to conquer. We seek to ensure that all of us together can flourish." The legend of humanity. Over the coming centuries, stories were told of the species that refused to kneel, that rose from the brink of destruction to become the beacon of hope for the galaxy. The legend of humanity would be passed down through generations, a reminder that even the smallest of species could change the course of the stars if they dared to fight for what was right. And so, As the stars continued to shine brightly above, the galaxy thrived under the leadership of those who refused to bow to tyranny, humanity.